As I house sat for my grandma, I couldn't shake the eerie feeling that something was off. The guest bedroom where I slept had always been a haven for my brother and me during sleepovers. After locking all the doors, I lay in bed, scrolling through my phone when suddenly I heard a faint feminine voice outside. It was a chilling hello, one that made my blood run cold. As I crept towards the front door and reached for the doorknob, my mind raced with possibilities of who was on the other side. As the woman's voice echoed every 10 seconds, and all she was saying was a very creepy hello, I couldn't dare to confront whoever was on the other side. With a growing sense of unease, I went to the dining room window to take a peek outside. There, standing on my grandma's porch, was a woman with an eerie, twisted grin on her face. Her eyes met mine, as if she knew I was watching her from behind the plastic blinds. As I stood there, paralyzed with fear, the woman's voice rang out once more, a haunting hello that sent chills down my spine. Despite her age, she had a look about her that screamed danger. I couldn't help but wonder who this woman was and why she was standing there in the dead of night, muttering hello to no one in particular. My mind raced with possibilities. Was she a thief, a murderer, or some other type of criminal? Why wasn't she knocking or ringing the bell like a normal person? The more I thought about it, the more my fear grew. I knew I had to protect myself, so I retreated to the safety of the guest bedroom and locked the door. I grabbed my phone and started texting everyone I knew, trying to make sense of what had just happened. My sister advised me to call my grandmother. Knowing that she rarely checked her phone, I knew it was useless. A tremendous banging sound abruptly broke the silence. Once more, the creepy voice said hello. I mustered the courage to lift the blinds. There she was, the horrifying older lady, her unsettling smile frozen in place, with only a thin layer of glass separating us. I screamed at her, "I'm calling the cops." After pulling the blind down, I quickly made my way to the living room and searched the house before running upstairs to the guest bedroom. I didn't want to call the police, and for some reason, I just wanted to wait it out. Hiding under the covers, I remained awake for hours until I finally decided to check each window. The creepy old lady was nowhere to be seen. The following day, I called my grandma and recounted the events of the previous night. She became panicked and distressed, telling me about a woman who had been watching her at the grocery store a few days earlier. The woman was about 10 years younger than her and kept smiling at her for no apparent reason. I tried to reassure my grandma, but her words gave me chills. Although my grandma is 75 and has lost some of her sharpness, I couldn't help but wonder if the woman at the store was the same person who came to the house that night. I am Nicholas, and I got back into the online dating scene after a tough breakup. That's when I stumbled upon Stephanie. She was a blonde beauty with whom I had an instant connection, and to my surprise, she also attended Syracuse University. Our interests matched, and we shared a similar sense of humor. I suggested we meet for a movie date, and she agreed. She shared the location for us to meet, and as I waited on the corner of the deserted block, looking around nervously, Stephanie requested that I share my location, and so I did. After a few minutes, I noticed a car approaching me, and my heart raced with excitement. But as it came closer, I realized with horror that it wasn't Stephanie behind the wheel. The driver was an old man. He rolled down the window and asked me what I was doing alone. He claimed to be Stephanie's father and offered to give me a ride to her, but something about him seemed off. He looked too old to be her father. Realizing I was in a dangerous situation, I questioned why he hadn't told me about the ride earlier. He claimed he didn't trust random guys meeting his daughter without meeting him first. Taking a good look at him, I decided to walk away, pretending not to be interested. As I walked in the opposite direction, he started yelling, trying to convince me to get in the car. But I had heard enough kidnapping stories to know where this could lead. I turned to make sure he wasn't following me and felt relieved as he drove away. But my relief was short-lived. As I continued walking towards campus, I noticed a car parked to the side with its lights turned off. It looked eerily similar to the one the man had been driving. Was he following me? I felt like someone was watching me as I passed the tinted window. Stephanie texted me to ask why I didn't ride with her dad in the car. My heart pounded with fear as I quickened my pace, glancing over my shoulder every few seconds. I turned right at the intersection, hoping to lose whoever was following me. But when I heard the sound of footsteps echoing behind me, I knew I was in trouble. I ran as fast as I could, my legs burning with exhaustion. I ducked behind a van, trying to catch my breath and figure out what to do next. That's when I heard the sound of broken glass crunching underfoot, and I knew I had been found. I crouched behind the van, listening intently for any signs of the stranger's approach. And then I saw him, the old man from before. He called out to me, promising to take me to Stephanie. I realized that my location was still visible to Stephanie. He looked like he was in his 60s, so with a surge of adrenaline, I sprinted away from him until I was safely back in my dorm room. My roommate was nowhere to be found, leaving me alone with the terrifying thoughts of what could have happened if I hadn't escaped the old man's clutches. Just as I was trying to calm myself down, my phone beeped with a new message notification. The old man threatened to strangle me, calling me a little piece of shit. I responded with a firm message, telling him that I had reported his threats to the police and blocked his number. I saved the conversation as evidence and hoped that the police would be able to take action before it was too late. As a naive 18-year-old, I took up a part-time job as a janitor at my high school during the summer. Little did I know that my job would lead me to experience such terror. I worked long hours, sometimes during the day and sometimes at night, from early morning until midnight, depending on how desperate I was for money. I found myself alone in the deserted school, left to lock up the building after the older janitors had already departed. It was a time before the high school had cameras installed in every hallway. As the night crept in, Tom, my superior, had to leave early, leaving me alone to finish the rest of my shift and lock up the school. I was excited for the chance to slack off and browse on my phone, or perhaps even leave early while still getting paid for the full shift. Tom's parting instructions were simple: bring all the extra seats from the gymnasium down to the basement storage room. It was an easy task, and I figured I'd do that and then head home. But what I encountered in the basement was far from easy. As I went to the basement, I noticed that the place was dark and dingy, more like a warehouse than a school basement. I noticed a group of art mannequins draped in paint clothes as if they were hidden away. It was clear that this was where the school kept its art supplies. When I made a second round to the basement with the chairs, something strange caught my eye. One of the mannequins was exposed. The paint cloth that once covered it had been removed. I knew for certain it was covered just moments before, as it was one of the front ones. What could have uncovered it? I frantically texted Tom, telling him that someone was in the basement and that one of the art clothes had been moved. His response was slow, but eventually he confirmed that no one else should be there. As I made my way towards the corner of the storage room where the art cloth was tucked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. And then I saw it. The cloth was covering something that was moving. I realized with horror that something was hiding under there. Without hesitation, I bolted back upstairs and locked the basement door behind me. I texted Tom again, urging him to come back, but he refused and told me to confront whoever was down there like a man. Summoning all my courage, I made my way back down to the basement. But when I reached the corner, the cloth was now flat on the floor, and whoever or whatever was hiding underneath it was gone. As I stood frozen in fear, I suddenly heard loud metallic thumps coming from above me. I looked up, and to my horror, saw the air vents slowly denting as if someone or something was crawling through them. The banging grew louder and more intense, as if whoever was up there was trying to break through the floor of the air vents and drop down on top of me. I didn't know what to do, but I knew that I couldn't stay there any longer. I ran up the stairs as fast as I could, locking up the school behind me. When I finally made it home, I called Tom and told him the half-truth. I said that I thought I saw someone in the corner of the storage room, but when I went back, they were gone. The next day, I handed in my resignation. It was my last week there, and I knew that it wasn't my concern anymore. but the memory of that night would haunt me forever.